I'm a former and hopefully future ink-stained wretch. My name is Joe Leydon, and after working in the miners, so to speak, in Jackson, Mississippi, and Shreveport, Louisiana, and even Dallas, Texas, I was film critic for the Houston Post for the better part of 14 years. And when the Post shut down in 1995, through no fault of my own, hasten to add, I was on the NBC affiliate on the weekends doing film reviews and interviews with celebrities until they decided that the pittance they were paying me, they would be better off using that money to buy more footage from videographers shooting, bodies being wheeled out of crack houses and things like that for the nightly news. And I now teach film history at University of Houston Community College. I've been a critic correspondent for Variety for, since 1989, and my book, Joe Leydon's Guide to Essential Movies You Must See, is still available on Amazon and fine bookstores everywhere. And you've interviewed Newman on a couple of occasions.
Once.
My fondest memory of Paul Newman, well, one of my fondest memories is, I was born and raised in New Orleans. And one fateful day, Paul Newman and Joan Woodward and various other actors were brought into an area a little bit bigger than this at the New Orleans International Airport. They just flown in to make the movie The Drowning Pool. And Newman showed up, and God bless him, Newman had sort of fortified himself for the occasion, shall we say. So Newman was talking to me, folding chair, a little bit, better made than this one, and talking, and Joan Woodward was on another folding chair talking to somebody else. And every so often, we'd get lost in the conversation, and he'd turn around and and just when his fingers were maybe just inches away from her rump, she would turn around and shoot him and look like his hand would be like a cat on a stove, and he'd go back to talking like me, and same thing. So after that happened about 3 or 4 times, somebody brought Paul to drink a beer, and well, he was lost to me for the rest of the conversation. Newman, like a lot of actors, I think of that generation. I'm thinking Brando. I'm thinking James Dean. This idea of what I was talking about last night when I introduced The Hustler. This idea of this cool, this diffidence, this kind of sense of irony, but Newman, I think, always took it one step further. I mean, I think he was very serious about his work, don't get me wrong. But I think, he thought the idea of his being a movie star was something of a joke. The idea that he would have to talk to the press was part of the job, and he would do it, but he wouldn't necessarily like it. And there were times, I think, and he didn't think necessarily showing up completely sober was part of the job either when he was dealing with the press. But I always got the feeling that on some level Newman thought this was kind of a joke, but it was also in some ways one of the greatest trips anybody could be on, to actually be a movie star.
It's funny, I have a little bit of a slightly different take on that side of him. And I'll tell you, the time I interviewed Paul Newman was in a hotel room in Boston. The movie was The Verdict. And first of all, when you do the kind of work that we're talking about, you get a little bit jaded, and meeting celebrities is not necessarily a big deal. Meeting Paul Newman was a big deal for me. This is somebody whose movies I had grown up on and who I had great admiration for, so you get a little nervous and edgy and awestruck. Newman was eating a hamburger, and he was really struggling with this hamburger. It was like wreaking havoc on his digestive system. And he was trying to eat the hamburger, and he said, "Oh man, I think I better, maybe I could wash this down with some of my own salad oil." And he was, through all this, I thought, a person, I agree with you, he's sort of uncomfortable with the press, and I think sort of uncomfortable really with his, I always got the impression, with his own stardom, that he never quite could really embrace it. And you mentioned, Brando and James Dean, and this is pure speculation. I have no idea what was going on in Paul Newman's head. But I always wondered if he felt maybe he couldn't get his game to, certainly not to the Brando level, and James Dean had something else. I don't know, maybe there was some kind of dissatisfaction with him with his own talent at times, even though he had plenty of it. So as a sort of opening take on Paul Newman, but an amazing career. And even the movies that I think the index of someone, there are people who can make not such great movies, and he made some not such great movies, and you kind of get put off of them. And Newman was, for me, never that way. I was always happy and eager to go see Paul Newman in anything.
Well, also, just a footnote about comment about James Dean and Marlon Brando. I think he and James Dean competed for the role in of Cow and East of Eden, and James Dean, won that.
You can watch them together in a clip on YouTube. It's hilarious. You can see Newman and James Dean together. Newman mostly giggles throughout the whole thing.
Well, also, James Dean was supposed to play the role in Somebody Up There Likes Me, and it was only after his death that Newman was cast in the role. And, I never had a chance to talk to Newman about this, but the idea that I got the impression early on he really felt he was, as you say, sort of in competition, I mean literally in competition with the roles and things like that. In fact, I always found it funny, the movie that never was, I don't know how long they actually seriously pursued this, but at one point in the casting process for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, they were thinking of it being a Newman Brando project. And, the mind reeled at the possibilities there. But Brando, and I think George C. Scott, I think we put a few other names on that list. These are folks, for all their talent, I got the impression that the idea of playing dress-up and make-believe for a living was somehow humiliating, somehow, unmasculine, not a suitable job for a grown-up. And Newman, for all his joking about the trappings of fame, all his talk about, I'm so tired of people always asking me to take my sunglasses off and see my blue eyes and that sort of thing. Which, by the way, I was actually near him one time at Cannes when somebody actually, some dope from our racket actually asked that. I was kind of embarrassed. I think he enjoyed acting more. Now, maybe he didn't enjoy the process, the having to sell yourself, sell your movie. But I think that he took more pleasure in acting than any of these gentlemen. And I think, oddly enough, probably the turning point for him was around the time of the late 60s, that whole Cool Hand Luke, and even Winning to a certain degree, and definitely Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid. It was sort of like he got in his zone. And he'd done really great work before then, don't get me wrong, but it was sort of like at that point, he was so self-assured and so, in the zone, in his own, comfortable in his own skin. And then he got to a point, I think, after Slapshot, and you mentioned The Verdict, which was a very challenging film. In fact, Robert Redford, some of you may know, was originally cast or originally offered the role. And Redford finally passed on it because he just couldn't get that dark, he felt. And it's sort of like there's certain actors who reach a point, it's beyond being in the zone. It's like, I can do anything. That's you know, one of the great things about being old. I mean, what are they going to do? Come and, you know, take the awards away from me? You know, and that extraordinary body of work, say, from, you know, The Verdict on, where, you know, you really got the feeling that he was always a character actor in a leading man's body, and like the character actor took over. And, you know, the film we're going to show here tonight